is one being, a leader, an evil ruler, who has been diabolically trying all his might to capture and discover the secrets of Grayskull, Castle Grayskull. And he is the Lord of Destruction himself, none other than Skeletor. And we'll be looking at the vintage collection Skeletor in this
Super Dave here with another Super Dave review. Super Dave here with another exciting Masters of the Universe, and this time it's a brand new category, the Vintage Collection. Now, one point could be made that the Vintage Collection we've already seen when we got the 40th anniversary He-Man, but it was not named the Vintage Collection, but it looked very much like this, so I guess they kind of reinvented this or invented this to kind of catch up with that ideal. But if you were lucky enough to get a hold of the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive a couple of years ago of the 40th anniversary 2-pack of He-Man and Skeletor, the ones that had the metal weapons, then you probably already have this guy for the most part. But there are differences. So we're going to be taking a look at this new Skeletor Vintage Collection. Masters of the Universe box looks very reminiscent to that. It says Masterverse on the top with the red exploding rocks. It has it wrapping around, but it has a lot different, has more of an origin style look on the back. There is a little write-up of the history of Skeletor and He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. There he is with basically drawings of the features that he has. And then there is some beautiful artwork with a little write-up there if you want to read that. But that's really cool with Castle Grayskull in the background and the moon looking, picture. So that's really cool. And that's pretty much the box. So I'm excited to check out the differences. We'll definitely be looking at the comparisons. But let's go ahead and open up our Vintage Collection. Skeletor over here in Eternia, not too far away from Castle Grayskull. And here we are just outside Castle Grayskull, where we'll be taking a look at our Vintage Collection Skeletor. And let's first take a look at Skeletor's accessories. And first of all, Skeletor comes with two sets of hands. He comes with a set of weapon-holding hands, horizontally hinged. One is equipped on the character. And he comes with a balled-up fisted hand and an open palm hand set, which I equipped on to the character here as well. You can see that nice, I think that's a different type open palm, but I'd have to double check that. But it's definitely big and really open and really well done. And this is really the first time we've seen this buck since that 2-pack, and the reason I know that is because this particular set of hands have the big pegs, and usually all the other Skeletor figures we've gotten from Masterverse has the smaller peg because they just kept reusing that Skeletor body. And this is new legs, new arms, new chest, basically reuse of that, San Diego Comic-Con 2-pack of Skeletor, the 40th anniversary He-Man type pack that we got then. But there are some differences we'll be looking at. But of course, He has his Havoc staff, and it's a deep purple, a really dark purple here, as you can see. And he comes with a power sword, and this one's not metal, but it does have a kind of a glittery type metallic purple to it with the wrap, but instead of it being brown or even tan, it's just a dark purple. That wrap is on the sword, so you can see it's really nice, thick plastic sword that is reminiscent of your Masterverse, New Eternia really type power sword. It's not Filmation necessarily, and it's definitely not the Revelation/Revolution power sword, but it is neat, very cool. And I believe it's just like the power sword that we got with the 2-pack, the metal sword, except it's not metal. But yeah, this Skeletor looks amazing. And the thing that I think we are probably most impressed with of all is the face sculpt. This face sculpt is just phenomenal. There you can see it's almost like it's got some dirtiness to it, like it's got just some shading to make it look like it's real bone, even though it has that yellow hue. And then those deep red eyes that recess back into there. There you can see it on that one eye with the black background. And then the cowl is very detailed. This is very reminiscent, I would say, to almost your classics style head. But this one may be even a little better, and we'll do some comparisons to kind of check out that theory there. But just looking really epic, really nice, really cool looking here. Awesome. And he is wanting to take over Castle Grayskull. Panthor's back there. Whiplash, New Eternia Whiplash. We've got our deluxe Beastman with a Hordak MX head sculpt, as well as a New Eternia Faker back there with a Hordak MX head sculpt, wearing the original Revelation Faker harness. And then we have Too Bad over here, New Eternia Too Bad, with Hordak MX head sculpts on them. And then we have our awesome New Eternia Trapjaw over there. And then the Origins Roton back in the back there, looking cool. All right, now let's go ahead and take a closer look at our Skeletor, as well as his articulation. All right, taking a closer look at our Skeletor. We're going to move him on in here a little bit, tone down these lights just a tad, and you can really see that he is well shaded. He's got some cool shading. Look at those abs. I love this deeper purple, and then it's got like a metallic section here for the bone. But just look at this head sculpt. That is phenomenal. This is probably, I would say, one of the best Skeletor head sculpts we have ever gotten, and that's even counting classics. I love this cowl. It's just the right size. You can see how it almost looks like the head is floating on the inside. You can tell that back in there. The darkness back in there that just kind of pulls it out. Those red eyes. The shading on that bone structure of this head, I would dare say, is perfect. I just really like the looks of it. He's got his traditional looking chest armor. The little rivets are painted in here on these cauldrons on his shoulders. He has a place for his power sword to go in, his sword to go in there. Again, the shading is really well done. I like this, very Skeletor-esque type loincloth skirt part that comes down with the trim painted on jewels there. And it is removable. And we'll go ahead and pop that part off so you can see that he does have a very traditional loincloth and belt, very classics inspired loincloth and belt. This is not New Eternia. This is definitely more like classics for sure. This vintage collection is. I mean, this is basically what we got in the classics in the sense of they're patterned very closely after the vintage toy, but brought to 6.5 to 7 inch scale with a lot more articulation and detail. And that's basically what classics was, and that's what you have here. Even that ram horn here and the face, the skull of this Havoc staff is looking very detailed. It's a deep purple, and it just feels very solid. You know, with the other Skeletor that came in that 2-pack, it was a little flimsy, him holding. This guy feels premium. He's heavy. He feels solid. He just has he just has an excellent look to him. And I don't know if you'll be able to tell it on camera here in a few minutes when we go to the comparisons and look at that other Skeletor that I think is very similar to this one. But this one just looks better to me. And I don't know exactly why. And maybe it will come to me when we look at him side by side. Look at them. But moving on to the articulation, he's going to be able to look up that much, and you are going to begin to see that blue neck when you look up. He's going to be able to look down until that cowl piece kind of touches the bottom there. So it's not going to be excellent because the cowl that's on his head kind of hits his chest. But, you know, we could to compensate some for the diaphragm there as well. He's, of course, going to be able to look side to side without any problems. He is going to be able to get just ever so small amount of head pivot. I was trying to see. Yeah, it's really not there much. But here's the big difference, and this will be a disappointment for some, is there is no articulated jaw. That jaw is static. It is frozen. It is definitely locked in place. It is a solid mold. So there is no articulated jaw. So the only way you could get that articulated jaw is to either get a hold of that 2-pack or swap out this head with the New Eternia Bone Throne Skeletor that we got earlier, who had an articulated jaw, or that Battle Armor Skeletor, which had an excellent face sculpt that you could pry this one out, put that one in this cowl, and there is a way to remove that chainmail type hood off of that Battle Armor Skeletor head. That when you remove the helmet, you can peel off that chainmail looking hoodie that he's got, and so you could probably put it in this one. I know you can put it in the one that comes with the Bone Throne because I've got one like that, and I'll show it to you right now. You can see it right here. This is the Battle Armor Skeletor head with the articulated jaw. And you see you can just see right here how much shading is on here. You see the light hits this and it really glows. And this one has that cool shading, bone looking shading, which is just so neat. But anyway, that is the Bone Throne Skeletor cowl, and that's the Battle Armor Skeletor head. So I'm sure the same thing could be done here if you would like an articulated jaw. But I'm just telling you, I'm in love with this head. It is downright perfect to me. I really like it. Anyway, all right. Moving on to articulation. Of course, he'll get full 360 with those arms, bicep swivel, double jointed elbows. Of course, as you can see, that'll go all the way. He also will be able to get full T-pose with those arms. And then take a look at this. I love how this armor hides the diaphragm break, but you're going to be able to crunch forward that much. You're going to be able to bend back slightly. You'll be able to bend back slightly. You do have that nice fluid turn at the waist, so you're going to be able to go side to side. So you got that full hula hoop motion there, and it's looking good. And you also can turn at the waist here. You can turn at the diaphragm, I should have said earlier, and you can turn at the waist. So you're going to be able to get full splits of those legs. Let's see if he has drop down method. Yes, he does. He has drop down method. So I think that is different from the 2-pack Skeletor, but we'll check that. And he has thigh rotation. He's going to be able to, when you drop down, he's going to be able to kick up a really good amount there. Oops, daisy. Let's push that back in. He's going to be able to get double jointed knees where his foot will hit the back of his lower back there. He also has boot cut. He's got the Skeletor type spiky toes that I think most of us prefer with our Skeletors. He's going to be able to go just about full tiptoes. He's going to be able to go up about that far. He has excellent rockers with the nice peg hole in the bottom. So this Skeletor is very well equipped with articulation, with everything that we're used to. And this strap is removable here. You see, it's like the traditional type straps that we used to see in the vintage, with the type straps that go in the buckle there and notch in place, so you'll be able to do that. And again, you have your nice place for the sword. And this hand really holds the Havoc staff well. Unfortunately, we didn't get a vertical hand, but I'm really loving these hands, especially this open palm hand. I could just see him holding the diamond ray of disappearance. Yep, I can see him holding that in that hand really well. Or just, you know, kind of having this rest here as he's talking to someone or getting ready to shoot at someone with the Havoc staff or cast a spell with it. Really cool. The one thing that I do wish that we would get with a Skeletor eventually is a pointer finger, a true pointer finger. We've got one that's kind of like this, a trigger finger, but I'd like to see a true pointer finger the way we saw him kind of doing in those pictures with Panthor. I think that would be neat. But anyway, we'll check him out with Panthor here in a few minutes as well. But first, let us do some comparisons. All right, here is our vintage collection Skeletor next to our San Diego Comic-Con 2-pack 40th anniversary He-Man Skeletor. And everyone was expecting to get this, and we kind of did and kind of didn't. We got the buck, we got the same articulations, same basically hands, accessories, the same chest armor, different paint apps, different weapons, basically because this head here is metal, whereas this one's plastic. This has a metallic, lighter purple. This has a flat, darker purple. And the same is true with basically everything. You have a lighter blue here with the same type shading. We do have that metallic type bone structure in the center that's basically the same color, whereas the chest armor is darker on the vintage versus the 2-pack. But look at the jewel. Yeah, he has a deep fuchsia / purple metallic jewel in the middle here, whereas this one's plain. No metallic jewel here. Found that interesting. But guess what? This one does not have the drop down method in the legs, so that's a difference. But this one does have articulated jaw. Yep. The jaw goes up and down, as you can see there. So you can articulate the jaw. And pretty much the same exact articulation as this guy, minus the drop down hips and the articulated jaw. So, but you can see it's definitely a different color blue. I definitely like this blue better. It's a toned down blue, whereas this is just so bright. But this does reminiscent a little bit more toward our original classics. Now the head sculpt even looks more similar as it does over here. Of course, this was not articulated. This head's a little narrower. You have the little green here. The cowl is a little smaller. Of course, the articulation is not as good on this fella, but you can definitely see the inspiration here for everything. The Havoc staff was smaller on top than what we get with these characters. But we get the same feet pretty much and boot look, the same loincloth, except they're longer here. You know, obviously these guys are taller than him. And you know, it is a different overall style chest armor. This is a little thicker with a more solid feel to it, and that jewel in the middle, whereas this is slimmed down just a tad, but still present. So then let's just turn them around very quickly if they'll stand up that direction. You can see he's got the place for his sword. This one, I still have the sword equipped on this one. See if I can get his feet. There we go. And finally, our classics even had the place for the sword, but different way of strapping on the chest armor. It had some pegs here instead of the straps. So there you go. Now let's look at some other Skeletor comparisons. All right, so now we have what I consider probably one of the most perfect Skeletors for me, and that's this Bone Throne Skeletor that I put the battle armor head sculpt in, as I mentioned, with the same cowl that came with him. And that's a Revelation Havoc staff that I have in his hand, but this is a different hand. You can see this hand here versus this hand. This has the larger peg, and this is, I don't know, just a thicker, wider type, even more realistic little bit. Has definitely the details of the fingernails. They're not painted here, but they look good. And then here, this hand is more like we've seen in some of the other newer releases. Kind of an odd looking thumb there, I think. But, you know, it does well to do like the shoulder, resting your hand on your shoulder type pose. But just wanted to point that out. But this vintage collection Skeletor head, again, is, I think, the winner of all of these, in my opinion, as far as stoic. There's your Revelation Skeletor, the beady little head. And like the body on this one and the color, I've always have, and the cape. But I just like the way he poses. He just looks good standing there. But I have some Hordak MX and some other custom heads for this body that I use. And then here is our Battle Armor Skeletor, who I love. That's a Classics double-edged blade that came with Plundar with the cool crystal ball on there, but is meant for the Classic Skeletor. But I like using him with the Battle Armor Skeletor here. But anyway, he has that chainmail under this helmet that I was talking about. And if you like this head sculpt, which I think it's really good, and you want to put it under a cowl like this chainmail that is just kind of wrapped around here, you boil that head and be careful that you don't mess up the paint and the articulation of this head. You might even want to try a hairdryer. I believe I use some hot water though, and then you just very easily peel off, and it's just glued on. And then when you put it under the cowl, you're not going to see it. There is, you can see if you look back in there, a little notch on the top of his head, but you can cover that up. And so that's what I was talking about. This is definitely one of my favorite Skeletors. He's got odd feet though. He's got real narrow feet with the 3 little toes, and you can check out my review on this Battle Armor Skeletor. But he does have the articulated jaw, which is very nice, really cool. But whichever your favorite Skeletor is, this is probably mine, and it's kind of a kit bash here, but I really like him, and I can always also put the cape on him. But man, this head is epic, really cool. Matter of fact, let me try this head on this body. Obviously, we lose the articulated jaw, and that's a big deal to me because I'm an articulation junkie, and I love this head. Because even when you close the mouth, it's really not that big of a difference This face is definitely wider, and you got those bone-like shading on here. But just look at the teeth. I mean, it's just really well done. Best Skeletor we've ever gotten. You just don't have that shading here. But let me try swapping heads right quick. All right, did a switcheroo here. And this is the Bone Throne Skeletor body with this Vintage Collection head. And it's definitely working. I think it works good, but at further inspection, you're not going to be able to put that head sculpt up inside of this cowl, because at closer inspection, after I popped off this head and looked at it, that is basically just a faceplate glued into the cowl. So there's paint in the back of a wall of plastic behind this faceplate that's black. And so this is solid all the way through. That may be the reason why this guy's so heavy and hefty. That's a solid piece with just a bone type faceplate glued on the front. So that explains why we don't get the articulated jaw. See, in order to have an articulated jaw, like with this guy and this guy, you had to have, you know, basically the full head and the room to have some gears in the back. So those cowls are, you know, actual cowls. They fit over it. But this is not the case with this new head. It almost looks a little too big at some angles on this body, but I mean, you could make it work. You probably raise that head up a little bit instead of having it flush all the way down to his shoulders. You could probably raise it up a little bit and look a little better. But this one definitely looks good on here, even though he's got that broad upper body and those big pectoral muscles here. This head still, you know, you can pull that off. And of course, I'm sure you could do the battle armor head over here as well. But yeah, it's looking cool, looking good. Okay, wow. Now, I really like that vintage collection head on the battle armor Skeletor. That is looking really good. The color of the cowl matches this armor. In this lighting it does. And just that larger head, wider head, if you will, with that bone shading just really looks, I think it looks really good here. I like it. I like it a lot. So, yeah, that is neat. And then here is our battle armor head, complete with that chainmail articulated mouth and the helmet atop the vintage collection body. And I don't know, it's not all there. You see a lot of the neck. It's not a complete match because you got a lighter purple here and you have a darker purple here, which is kind of odd because the cowl, get the light over here, the cowl works. It is darker, but it works. But you see, that's more of a metallic helmet to a really dark chest armor. So I don't know, it's just, I don't know, it's different for sure. There's definitely a difference. And there's my Revelation Skeletor with a custom head. Forget who made that for me, but it has a magnetic faceplate. So this is kind of like what you have over here. You have a faceplate, but this one, yeah, I can swatch it out with an open mouth or a closed mouth. I've got a closed mouth somewhere in one of my little things. But that's kind of what we have here, just don't have the ability to remove it in the vintage. That would have been smart. Makes for a bigger head when the mouth is open in this particular situation. That head sculpt may actually look better on one of these bodies since they're broader, I don't know. But anyway, I'm kind of rambling, but you can see the differences here and I think they're awesome. I really like this vintage head sculpt on that battle armor head. May have to get another vintage collection Skeletor just so I can, because I've got like 3 of these battle armor just because I've been doing different things with them. They're just, he's one of my favorites. And you can find him a lot of places right now in Walmart. He's just epic looking in my opinion. He's one of my favorites as far as battle armor anyway. But anyhow, all right, here is our Panthor with our vintage collection Skeletor riding on him, and he is looking phenomenal. Just take a look at that. You can see you can definitely put his Havoc staff in that second loop system on this side of Panthor. And you notice Skeletor just sits so well on top of Panthor, even though this is the same body, that basically body part under here that our Revelation Battle Cat has. It's something about that flimsy, weak, thin harness, or I should say saddle, that it has. But the way this one is shaped and chiseled out and the sturdiness of it, he just is somehow able to really fit in here better. And so yeah, we definitely need a better saddle for He-Man on our Battle Cat, at least, even if we didn't get a new release, you know, which I hope we will get a new Eternia, but we talked about that. But just look at how well this vintage collection and how nice he looks atop of our awesome Panthor. And if you like his helmet, I like him pretty much without the helmet. I think he looks really good. But if you would like to see him, see how those, oh man, how those teeth come down. You open that roaring head and those eyes with the glass over them, looking cool. But let's go ahead and put the helmet on right quick here. And there it is. Just take a look at there. Roar. He is ready. Looking cool with this vintage collection Skeletor. He's able to hold on to that part with that hand. He's just looking so nice on here. I just love the way that looks. That is looking just perfect, in my opinion. Looking really nice. All the way around here one more time. Yes. Again, that awesome looking bone shaded face. Get another look at that from every angle here. You can just see it's just really phenomenal. Look at those eyes. They almost look like they glow. But it's looking good. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us for another Super Dave review. Checking out this vintage collection Skeletor with us. And we hope to see you again soon. Go ahead and subscribe if you've not done so. Our channel's on fire. Like, comment if you have something to share. And we'll see you next time. Here's some photos in the photo gallery. Be blessed.